a lot of the data centers that are being built actually around the world now are being designed not just to train models, but to serve them to you in a better way. So that then creates this immense demand for additional compute, even if you're not training new models.
How does the US get to decide to control who gets these chips?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, and like one of the most important maybe in the world economy going on right now. So the US had put controls on Huawei and ZTE and other companies before, but this really starts in October of 2022, which is the month before OpenAI releases ChatGPT and launches this wave. So the US comes out with this rule that says no one in China can buy the best chips for training AI. And this is justified explicitly in the rules as saying, we don't want China doing advanced nuclear and hypersonic missile. It's all about military modernization. But then when you see how it's actually discussed later on, it's pretty clear that AI, not just for military, but the whole idea of kind of competing national systems and as a strategy, that this becomes core. But pretty much every chip in the world today, at least all the advanced ones, are made with one of these three design tool companies that are design software companies from the US, or three of the top five equipment companies that make the equipment that makes the chips in the TSMC fab are American, and there's no way to just swap those out for a foreign equivalent. So like the US has kind of closed off every possible way to say, you have no jurisdiction over my chips. But they apply this thing called the foreign direct product rule, which says, if you're doing something off a US blueprint or using US manufacturing in your facility, we're going to claim that we can do that. And it's kind of like seed companies, which say, the seeds that come from what we sold you, we continue to own that because we designed that. And it's an extraterritorial control, which says TSMC in Taiwan or Samsung in Korea can't sell a certain chip somewhere else. And of course,
because it was made with American designs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they could say, hey, America, get out of my business. This chip is not American. What do you have? And then, of course, the U.S. response would be, okay, you don't get any more equipment. So for everyone so far, the deal has been, other than Chinese companies, obviously, it's made sense to comply with the U.S. regulation. So China has not only tried to produce its own chips, which has been really challenging, in part because the U.S. also shut off their ability to buy a lot of the advanced equipment that they would need to make those chips. But one of the things about most of the leading Chinese models is that they're what are called open weight. So I guess the equivalent is, I could have Raising Cane's special sauce and keep it secret, and therefore the only way you can get that is through me. And that's generally the way that the U.S. labs have been releasing their best models. Is they're really focused on models where they have the special sauce. You can't get access to what it is. I mean, there's good reason. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases to train these things, and there's also a safety concern. Now, the Chinese models, in part, I think because of the compute controls, because they didn't have the computing power to serve you their unique models, they have opened the weights. So you can go on to Hugging Face today, which is the main, it's a wonderfully named thing where kind of it's a hub for the open AI community. And you can just download one of these models. And if you have the computing power yourself, you can just run them and you don't need to pay the Chinese model anything. So they spent a lot of money, a lot of effort to make this model, and they just make it openly available, and you can run it at the cost of compute. A lot of startups and researchers and others, they use these open weight models because they can look under the hood, change it, fine tune it, but they also don't have to pay anything back to the person who developed it. So it can be a lot cheaper. And now there's a lot of angst in the US where we clearly lead in capabilities of the best models, but China has generally been leading in recent times with open models. And there's this question, do we need to lead in both? And what's the security risk if we continue, US and China are competing and we're all issuing these super powerful open models, maybe without the right protections? And there's this big question, can that continue? NVIDIA is now saying we expect zero revenue from China on these going forward, because China has actually said, we don't want your stinking tuned down AI chips. We are going to make our own.
Are they making their own?
They are making their own. This is the hottest question in export control land, because if China can make its own chips without much supply constraint, then it means that the export controls are going to become a lot less effective going forward.